Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ISS Hyperion, her eyes fixed on the shimmering barrier that had appeared around Earth just hours ago. The massive energy field cast an ethereal purple glow across the planet's surface, effectively cutting off humanity from the rest of the universe. Behind her, the bridge crew worked in tense silence, monitoring systems that until yesterday had been purely theoretical. "Status report," she commanded, turning to face her crew. The Hyperion's bridge was unlike any other spacecraft in Earth's fleet. Instead of traditional controls, quantum crystalline displays floated in the air, responding to both touch and thought. Lieutenant Marcus Rivera, her tactical officer, looked up from his station. "The barrier is still expanding, Captain. At current rates, it will reach Lumina's orbit in approximately 6 hours. Energy readings are, well, they're off any scale we have." "And our visitors?" Sarah asked, though she already knew the answer. The massive Nexus vessels hanging just beyond the barrier hadn't moved since their arrival. Their ships resembled abstract art more than spacecraft, geometric shapes that seemed to fold in on themselves in ways that defied physics. Dr. Emily Wong, the ship's quantum physicist, stepped forward. Her holographic displays followed her movement. "Captain, I've completed my analysis of their transmission. It's troubling." She waved her hand, and a complex series of equations appeared in the air. "They're not just advanced. They're operating on principles we've barely theorized about. The barrier they've created, it's a temporal containment field." Sarah felt her stomach tighten. The Hyperion had been built in secret, incorporating breakthrough technologies that had pushed the boundaries of human understanding. But temporal manipulation, that was beyond even their capabilities. They're containing time itself. "Yes and no," Emily replied. "They're trying to isolate Earth in a temporal bubble. According to their message, they see us as a probability threat. Our rate of technological advancement has them concerned." The irony wasn't lost on Sarah. The Hyperion itself was proof of their fears. A ship that could manipulate quantum states, bend space, and perhaps even pierce the veil between dimensions. It had been built to defend Earth against unknown threats. Now, it seemed those threats had found them first. Commander David Park, her XO, spoke up from his station. The Nexus transmission was clear about their intentions. They believe humanity will eventually become a threat to the stability of the galaxy. This containment is their solution, keeping us trapped in a slower time stream while the rest of the universe moves forward. Sarah walked to the center of the bridge, where a holographic representation of Earth and the barrier floated. The Hyperion, represented by a small blue dot, hung in high orbit, just outside the expanding field. They had barely managed to avoid being caught when the barrier first appeared. "Options?" she asked, studying the display. Marcus brought up tactical overlays. "We've got the quantum lance, but we've never tested it against anything this powerful. The dimensional drives are still charging. We need another 3 hours before we can attempt to fold." "We don't have 3 hours," Sarah said, watching the barrier's inexorable expansion. "Emily, what happens if that field reaches the moon?" The physicist's face grew grim. "The gravitational interactions would be catastrophic. Best case, massive tidal disruptions. Worst case, the moon gets torn apart and Earth suffers the consequences." Sarah felt the weight of command settle heavily on her shoulders. The Hyperion was humanity's most advanced vessel, a prototype that incorporated technologies that most of the world didn't even know existed. But against the Nexus, would it be enough? "David, get me a channel to EarthCom. They need to know what we're facing." She turned to Emily. "Doctor, I need options. The Hyperion was built to handle the impossible. It's time to prove it." As her crew rushed to comply, Sarah returned her gaze to the viewport. The barrier's purple glow seemed to mock them, a testament to how far humanity still had to go. But there was something the Nexus hadn't considered. Humans had a habit of exceeding expectations, especially when backed into a corner. "Captain," Marcus called out, his voice tight with urgency. Multiple Nexus vessels are moving. They're attempting to establish secondary containment points around our major colonies on Mars and Luna. Sarah's jaw tightened. The Nexus weren't just trying to contain Earth. They were attempting to lock down all of human civilization. Her hand unconsciously touched the quantum crystal pendant at her neck, a prototype neural interface that connected her directly to the Hyperion systems. Emily, how close are we to understanding their barrier technology? The physicist manipulated her displays, complex equations swirling around her. Their approach is elegant, but wait. Her eyes widened. Captain, the barrier's quantum signature. It's similar to our dimensional drive's resonance pattern. We might not be able to break it, but maybe we can match it. Sarah finished, the beginnings of a plan forming in her mind. Marcus, power up the quantum lance. Emily, I need you to synchronize its output with the barrier's frequency. David, alert Earthcom. Tell them to prepare for possible temporal distortions. The bridge came alive with activity. The Hyperion systems hummed with power as they prepared to attempt something that had never been done before. Sarah knew the risks. One miscalculation could tear a hole in space-time itself. But the alternative was watching humanity become imprisoned in its own cradle, forever cut off from its destiny among the stars. All systems ready, Captain, Marcus reported. Quantum lance charged and synchronized. Sarah took a deep breath, her hand gripping her pendant. Through it, she could feel the Hyperion's power thrumming through her consciousness. The Nexus think they know humanity's future, she said, her voice carrying across the bridge. Let's show them how wrong they are. The Hyperion's quantum lance fired, a beam of pure possibility made manifest. Where it struck the temporal barrier, reality itself seemed to shudder. Captain Sarah Chen watched through the neural interface as quantum data flooded her consciousness, the ship's sensors translating impossible mathematics into comprehensible information. Direct hit, Marcus announced, his fingers dancing across his holographic controls. The barrier's resonance is fluctuating, but it's still holding. Emily's voice cut through the tension. Captain, look at these readings. The barrier isn't just containing time. It's actively processing it. It's like a massive quantum computer, calculating and recalculating probable futures. Sarah processed this information through her neural link. The Hyperion's quantum systems were feeding her data faster than any human could normally comprehend. They're not just trying to contain us, she realized. They're running simulations, watching every possible future we might create. A warning klaxon shattered her concentration. David's voice rang out across the bridge. Multiple Nexus vessels approaching. They've detected our attempt to interface with the barrier. The alien ships moved with impossible grace, their geometric forms shifting and reorganizing as they approached. Through the Hyperion sensors, Sarah could see waves of quantum distortion rippling out from their hulls. They're preparing to fire, Marcus warned. Energy signatures unlike anything we've seen before. Sarah's mind raced through possibilities, the neural interface feeding her tactical options faster than thought. Emily, can we use the barrier's quantum processing against them? The physicist's hands blurred across her displays. Maybe. The barrier is essentially a massive quantum field, if we can match its computational frequency. Her eyes widened. Captain, the Hyperion's dimensional drive. It doesn't just fold space, it processes quantum states. If we synchronize it with the barrier, we could tap into their own calculations. Sarah finished. Do it. Marcus, defensive pattern delta. David, get me everything we have on their weapon systems. The Hyperion moved like a dancer, its advanced drives responding to Sarah's neural commands with perfect precision. The first Nexus attack came as ripples in space-time itself, attempting to age sections of the ship's hull by centuries and seconds. But the Hyperion was ready. Its quantum crystalline hull shifted states, becoming both present and absent simultaneously. The temporal attacks passed through harmlessly, finding no fixed matter to affect. Hull integrity holding, David reported. Whatever they're throwing at us, Our quantum state shifting is keeping us ahead of it. Emily's voice was tight with concentration. Dimensional drive synchronized with the barrier in 3, 2, 1. The universe seemed to hold its breath. Through her neural interface, Sarah felt the moment the connection was made. The barrier's quantum calculations flooded into the Hyperion systems, and with them came understanding. They've been watching us for centuries, she breathed, the information cascading through her mind. Running simulations, watching every possible timeline. They saw futures where humanity spread across the galaxy, bringing both innovation and chaos. They saw us destabilizing the very fabric of space-time with our experiments. They saw. She paused, the revelation striking her like a physical blow. They saw the Hyperion. They saw what we'd become capable of, and it terrified them. Marcus's tactical display suddenly blazed with warnings. Multiple quantum signatures. They're trying to collapse our connection to the barrier. But Sarah was smiling now. Through the neural interface, she could see what the Nexus couldn't. The true potential of human ingenuity. The Hyperion wasn't just interfacing with their barrier. It was learning from it, adapting, evolving. Emily, initiate full quantum integration. Marcus, power to the dimensional drive. David, alert Earthcom. Tell them to prepare for temporal fluctuations. The Hyperion systems surged with power as Sarah opened herself fully to the neural interface. The quantum crystal pendant at her neck grew warm, its glow matching the pulsing heart of the ship's quantum core. "What are you doing?" David asked, watching as new displays materialized around them, showing calculations that shouldn't have been possible. "What humanity does best," Sarah replied. "Learning. Adapting." The Nexus built this barrier using principles they've had millennia to perfect, but they never considered what would happen when those principles met human creativity. The Hyperion's quantum lance fired again, but this time it was different. Instead of attacking the barrier, the beam resonated with it, creating harmonics in spacetime itself. The barrier's purple glow began to shift, patterns of light and energy dancing across its surface. "It's working," Emily exclaimed. "We're not breaking their barrier. We're reprogramming it. The quantum calculations, the temporal simulations, we're turning their own technology against them." The Nexus ships reacted instantly, their geometric forms twisting as they brought more weapons to bear. But they were too late. The Hyperion had already learned too much from their own barrier. Sarah felt the ship's systems integrate with the quantum field, felt possibilities multiply exponentially. Through the neural interface, she could see timelines branching and recombining, could see the Nexus's own probable futures shifting as they realized what humanity had achieved. "They thought they could predict us," she said, watching as the barrier began to respond to the Hyperion's commands. "They thought they could calculate every possibility, control every outcome. But they forgot one crucial variable." "What's that?" David asked, even as he coordinated with Earthcom. Sarah's smile was fierce as she watched the Nexus ships begin to retreat. "That humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our intelligence. It's our ability to take the impossible and make it probable." The barrier's purple glow had turned to brilliant gold, its quantum calculations now serving a new purpose. Earth's prison was becoming its shield, and the Hyperion was just getting started. Victory, Sarah Chen was learning, came with its own kind of terror. The Hyperion hung in space, surrounded by the golden glow of the reprogrammed barrier, while Earth scientists struggled to understand what they had unleashed. Through her neural interface, she could feel the quantum calculations continuing, each one revealing more about both humanity's potential and the price of their success. "Status report," she called, watching as new data streams flickered across her quantum crystalline displays. Emily's voice was strained with exhaustion, but carried an undercurrent of excitement. "The barrier's integration with our systems is stable, but, Captain, the things we're learning. The Nexus weren't just trying to contain us. They were trying to prevent something they'd seen in their probability calculations. Something worse than humanity spreading across the stars." David asked from his station. Much worse. Emily brought up a series of complex temporal equations. According to these calculations, they saw a future where human quantum technology evolved beyond even their understanding. A future where we didn't just travel through space, but began to manipulate the fundamental constants of the universe itself. Marcus interrupted, his tactical displays flashing urgent warnings. Multiple quantum signatures detected. The Nexus fleet is returning. But these readings, they're different. Sarah accessed the tactical data through her neural link. The approaching Nexus vessels had changed. Their geometric forms now bristled with what looked like temporal weaponry, their hulls radiating waves of probability distortion. They've adapted, she realized. They saw what we did with their barrier technology, and they've modified their ships to counter it. Incoming transmission, David announced. They're broadcasting on all frequencies, using our own quantum communications protocols. Sarah nodded. Put it through. The bridge's holographic displays shimmered, and a figure appeared. It wasn't physical, more like a visualization of pure mathematics given form. When it spoke, its voice resonated directly in their minds. Humanity, the being said, you have proven our calculations correct. Your species does not merely adapt, you transform. You take our barriers and make them your own. You see our quantum mathematics and improve upon them within hours. You are becoming exactly what we feared. Sarah stepped forward. We've done nothing but defend ourselves. You tried to imprison our entire species. To save you, the entity replied. To save all of reality. Your quantum technologies, your dimensional experiments, they are approaching a threshold, a point beyond which the very fabric of space-time becomes unstable. Through her neural interface, Sarah felt the Hyperion's systems processing this information, comparing it to their own research. To her horror, she realized the Nexus might be right. The quantum calculations they'd absorbed from the barrier were showing similar predictions. Captain, Emily called out urgently. The barrier. Its calculations are accelerating exponentially. The more we interface with it, the faster our technology evolves. We're approaching some kind of quantum cascade point. The Nexus entity's form flickered. You see now. Your very success proves our predictions. Left unchecked, humanity will trigger a quantum revolution that will reshape the universe itself. We cannot allow this. The Nexus fleet began to move, their ships arranging themselves in a pattern that made Sarah's head hurt to look at. Through the neural interface, she could feel the Hyperion systems struggling to process the immense energy readings. They're preparing to fire, Marcus reported. Multiple temporal weapons charging. These aren't containment weapons anymore, Captain. They're coming to end the threat permanently. Sarah felt the weight of the moment press down on her. The Hyperion's quantum systems were showing her possibilities branching out in every direction. In some futures, they fought and won. In others, Earth burned. But in every timeline where humanity survived, the Nexus predictions came true. Human quantum technology eventually reached a point that changed everything. Emily, she called out, her mind racing through possibilities. The quantum cascade they're worried about. Could we control it? The physicist's hands flew across her displays. Theoretically, the Hyperion's dimensional drive, combined with what we've learned from their barrier, we might be able to direct the cascade, contain it, but the power requirements would be enormous. And the risks? David asked. We'd be manipulating the fundamental forces of reality, Emily replied. One mistake, and we could tear a hole in space-time itself. The Nexus ships were almost in firing position. Their temporal weapons would rewrite history itself, ensuring humanity never developed quantum technology in the first place. Sarah could feel the probability waves building through her neural interface. She touched the quantum crystal pendant at her neck, feeling its resonance with the ship's core. The Nexus think they can predict us, control us, eliminate us. But they've made one fundamental mistake. What's that? Marcus asked, his hands poised over the tactical controls. They assume that because they can calculate all possibilities, they can control the outcome. But humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology. She straightened in her captain's chair, feeling the Hyperion's power flow through her. It's our ability to choose our own destiny, no matter the odds. The Nexus fleet opened fire, temporal weapons blazing across space, but Sarah was already moving, her neural interface allowing her to direct the Hyperion with thought alone. It was time to show the galaxy why humanity could never truly be contained. Time fractured around the Hyperion as temporal weapons fire rippled through space. Captain Sarah Chen felt reality trying to rewrite itself, but the ship's quantum systems held firm, maintaining their existence in a bubble of protected spacetime. Through her neural interface, she could see probability waves collapsing and reforming with every passing second. Hull integrity at 90%, Marcus reported, his voice steady despite the chaos. The quantum crystalline structure is holding, but we're seeing microfractures in the spacetime continuum around us. Emily's hands danced across her holographic displays. Captain, the temporal attacks, they're not just trying to erase us. They're trying to create a causality loop, make it so the Hyperion was never built in the first place. Sarah processed this through her neural interface, watching as the quantum calculations confirmed Emily's analysis. The Nexus weren't just fighting them in the present. They were attempting to eliminate humanity's quantum technology from every possible timeline. David, status of the barrier, she called out. Her XO's voice was tense. It's destabilizing. Whatever the Nexus is doing, it's affecting the quantum field we reprogrammed. If it collapses, Earth will be defenseless. Sarah finished. She could feel the Hyperion systems straining as they tried to maintain the protective field around their home planet. Emily, you said we might be able to control the quantum cascade. What exactly would that mean? The physicist brought up a new set of calculations, the mathematics so complex they seemed to twist in on themselves. The Nexus are right about one thing. Human quantum technology is approaching the threshold. But what they see as a threat, I see as an opportunity. If we can trigger a controlled cascade, we could rewrite the rules. Sarah finished, the possibilities flooding through her neural link. Not just of this battle, but of reality itself. A violent shudder ran through the ship as another temporal blast struck home. Whatever we're going to do, Marcus called out, we need to do it fast. The Nexus are concentrating their fire. They know we're planning something. Sarah stood from her captain's chair, her mind racing through quantum probabilities. The neural interface was showing her possibilities that shouldn't exist, futures that defied conventional physics. Emily, begin quantum cascade initialization. David, divert all non-essential power to the dimensional drive. Marcus, defensive pattern omega, bias time. The Hyperion moved like liquid thought, its advanced systems responding instantly to her commands. Around them, space itself seemed to blur as temporal weapons fire continued to splash against their quantum shields. Through her neural interface, Sarah could feel the cascade building. The ship's quantum core was drawing in energy from multiple dimensions, creating a buildup of potential that made her quantum crystal pendant vibrate with power. Cascade at 30%, Emily reported. But Captain, there's something else. The calculations, they're showing temporal echoes. Whatever we're about to do, it's already happened. Is happening. Will happen. Sarah felt it too. A strange sense of déjà vu flooding through the neural interface. She could see ghost images of other Hyperions, other battles, other moments all overlapping with the present. We're causing a temporal resonance. Multiple timeline convergence detected, David announced, his displays showing waves of probability colliding and interfering with each other. The Nexus, they're reacting to something we haven't done yet. The enemy fleet's formation was changing, their geometric ships rearranging themselves into a new pattern. But through the quantum calculations, Sarah could see something the Nexus couldn't. Their very attempts to stop the cascade were actually helping to create it. They're trying to maintain causality, Emily realized, watching the readings. Their temporal weapons, their probability calculations. Everything they're doing is actually stabilizing the quantum field we need for the cascade. Another blast rocked the ship. Shields at 60%, Marcus reported. We're running out of time. But Sarah was smiling now. Through her neural interface, she could see the pattern emerging. The Nexus had spent millennia perfecting their temporal technology, learning to calculate and manipulate probability itself. But they had never encountered a species like humanity. A species that could take their carefully controlled systems and turn them into something new. Emily, redirect the shield harmonics. Don't try to block their temporal weapons. Synchronize with them. Marcus, plot an intercept course with the center of their formation. David, prepare to divert all power to the quantum core on my mark. Her crew worked with practiced efficiency, even as reality itself seemed to shiver around them. The quantum cascade was building, fed by the very weapons meant to stop it. Through her neural interface, Sarah could feel the possibilities multiplying exponentially. Cascade at 70%, Emily called out. Captain, if we go through with this, the changes we're about to make to reality itself will be our choice, Sarah finished, not their calculations. She touched her pendant, feeling it pulse in sync with the ship's quantum core. The Nexus think they can predict every possibility, control every outcome. But they never understood what makes humanity different. The enemy fleet's weapons fire intensified, temporal blasts distorting space itself around the Hyperion. But with each attack, the quantum cascade grew stronger, reality itself responding to humanity's determination to forge its own path. Cascade at 90%, Emily announced. Point of no return in 10 seconds. Sarah Chen stood on her bridge, feeling the weight of all possible futures pressing down on her. Through the neural interface, she could see timelines branching and recombining, could feel the moment of change approaching. The Nexus had tried to cage humanity's potential, to constrain them with probability and prediction. Now they would learn why that was never possible. All power to quantum core, she commanded. It's time to show them why humanity can never truly be contained. The cascade reached critical point, and reality held its breath, waiting to see what humanity would choose to become. The universe changed. There was no other way to describe what happened when the Hyperion's quantum cascade reached critical point. Reality itself seemed to hold its breath, and then exhale in ways that defied description. Through her neural interface, Captain Sarah Chen felt possibilities collapse and expand simultaneously, as humanity's potential was finally unleashed. The Nexus fleet hung frozen in space, their temporal weapons caught in a moment between moments. The geometric shapes of their vessels seemed to flutter between states of existence, as if reality itself couldn't decide what they should be. Quantum cascade stabilizing, Emily reported, her voice filled with wonder. The readings, Captain, we're not just changing space-time. We're evolving it. Sarah could see it through the neural interface. The Hyperion systems weren't just manipulating quantum states anymore. They were creating new ones. Reality itself was adapting to accommodate human innovation, expanding its own rules to encompass what humanity could imagine. Multiple temporal signatures detected, Marcus announced. The Nexus fleet. They're trying to retreat, but the quantum field is affecting their systems. Through the view screen, Sarah watched as the enemy vessels struggled against the new physics they found themselves in. Their technology, once seemingly all-powerful, now appeared primitive compared to what the Hyperion had unleashed. The quantum crystal pendant at her neck pulsed with energy as new data flooded through the neural interface. Emily, what exactly did we do? The physicist's hands moved across displays showing calculations that shouldn't have been possible. We didn't just change the rules of quantum mechanics, Captain. We taught the universe how to change them. The cascade didn't just affect us. It affected everything. Reality itself is learning to adapt, to evolve. A transmission cut through their wonder. The Nexus entity appeared again, but its mathematical form seemed less certain now, fluctuating between states of possibility. What have you done? it demanded, its voice resonating with both fear and awe. The timelines. They're all changing. Every calculation, every prediction. None of them account for this. Sarah stood tall on her bridge, feeling the power of human achievement flowing through the neural interface. We did exactly what you feared. We didn't just advance our technology. We changed what technology could be. You tried to cage us with causality, to bind us with your predictions, but humanity was never meant to be contained. You don't understand, the entity insisted. These changes, this evolution, it will spread. Not just through space, but through time itself. Every civilization, every species will be affected. Good, Sarah replied. Because that's what humanity does best. We share our innovations, our discoveries. We don't hoard knowledge or try to control it. We use it to lift everyone up. Through her neural interface, she could see the truth of her words. The quantum cascade wasn't just changing Earth or human space. It was spreading outward through the galaxy, offering every species the chance to evolve beyond their limitations. Captain, David called out, his voice urgent. The barrier around Earth, it's not just gone. It's transforming. The golden field that had once been their prison now shimmered with new purpose. Instead of containing Earth, it was connecting it to the galaxy in ways never before possible. Through it, Sarah could see the potential futures the Nexus had feared. Humanity spreading among the stars, sharing their innovations, teaching others how to break free of their own limitations. They're retreating, Marcus reported, watching as the Nexus fleet began to withdraw. Their ships can barely maintain quantum coherence in this new reality we've created. But Sarah wasn't interested in the retreat. Through her neural interface, she could see something far more important. The beginning of a new era. The quantum cascade hadn't just changed the rules of physics. It had changed the very nature of possibility itself. Emily, she called out, begin transmitting everything we've learned to Earth. Not just the technical data, but the quantum mathematics, the temporal physics, everything. What we've discovered belongs to all of humanity. The physicist nodded, her fingers flying across her holographic controls. Already done, Captain. And something else is happening. The quantum field we created. It's not just transmitting data. It's teaching Earth's systems how to evolve on their own. Sarah smiled, watching through the viewscreen as the first signs of change began to appear. Cities on the night side of Earth were beginning to glow with new energy as human technology adapted to the possibilities they'd unleashed. Ships in orbit were already beginning to incorporate the new physics into their systems. The Nexus entity spoke one final time before its fleet disappeared into the depths of space. You have changed everything. The future is no longer certain. It never was, Sarah replied. That's what you never understood about humanity. We don't want a future we can predict. We want one we can shape. As the entity faded away, Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the ISS Hyperion, watching through her neural interface as humanity took its first steps into a reality they had helped create. The quantum cascade continued to spread through space and time, offering every species the chance to evolve beyond their limitations. Orders, Captain? David asked. Sarah touched her pendant, feeling it pulse with the heartbeat of this new universe they'd helped birth. Set course for Earth. It's time to help humanity understand what we've become, and what we can help others become. The Hyperion turned toward home, its quantum systems humming with power that defied the old laws of physics. Behind them, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if reality itself was celebrating the dawn of a new age. One where the only limit was what sentient beings could imagine together. Humanity had not just survived the Nexus' attempt to contain them. They had transformed it into an opportunity for every species to grow beyond their bonds. The future was no longer a calculation to be feared, but a possibility to be embraced.